My boyfriend took hundreds of modeling photos of me without my knowledge, then used them to list me on a sugar baby website he created behind my back. When I confronted him, he smiled and said, "I'm just not threatened by other men anymore. Isn't that healthier?" I stayed silent. That was 3 months ago. This morning, he was standing outside my apartment in tears, screaming, "You'll always be mine." For 2 years, my boyfriend was the type of man to wrap his arm around me when other guys looked my way, to repost all my Instagram photos on his story and say, "My girl." But it was never in a controlling way. It was more like a, he was proud I was his girl kind of way. He'd joke about fighting anyone who hit on me, flexing his very delicious biceps until I laughed. It was sweet. But 3 months ago, everything shifted. I wish he just cheated, or had a secret baby mama. But the truth was one of those stories that you don't think could happen to you until it does. It started at his company's holiday party. His VP kept refilling my wine glass, standing too close, touching my shoulder when he laughed. Usually Marcus would have steered me away, or made some excuse for us to leave. Instead, he disappeared to the bathroom for 20 minutes, leaving me trapped in conversation. "Your boyfriend's lucky," the VP said, sliding his business card into my hand. "Call me if you ever want to discuss opportunities." His eyes then dragged from the top to the bottom of my dress. I shuddered. The audacity. And when I showed Marcus the card later, I expected him to be even angrier than me. Instead, he just smiled. "Richard's a good guy. Lots of connections." Like what? Anyway, I figured that maybe my spidey senses were off and I had misinterpreted the entire interaction. But things only got worse. Marcus started buying me expensive dresses, bodycon, low cut, things I didn't even want to wear. "You're too gorgeous to dress like a librarian," he'd say. When I protested, he'd get this hurt look. "I just want to spoil you. Is that so wrong?" He began insisting we go to upscale bars, the kind where men in suits bought $30 cocktails. He'd point out my admirers with this weird excitement. "That guy's been staring at you all night. Bet he's a CEO or something." The possessiveness I once knew evaporated. When men approached me, Marcus would suddenly need to take a call or use the restroom. He'd return asking for details. Ask things like, "What did they say?" or "Did they seem interested?" And one thing about me is that I hate confrontation, so it took me weeks to even consider bringing it up. But then he started taking photos of me constantly. Not cute couple selfies, just me. "The lighting's perfect," he'd say, directing me to pose. The requests got stranger. "Arch your back more. Let the strap fall off your shoulder. Give me that mysterious smile." That's when I snapped. "What the F is going on, Marcus? Why are you acting like this?" "Like what?" he asked, his voice dripping with fake innocence. "I'm just not threatened by other men anymore. Isn't that healthier?" I asked him if he was thinking of leaving me, and his face turned pale, in a way no one could fake. "No, baby. I love you." He immediately came rushing over to me, cradling me in his arms. "Please don't ask that again." By this point, his voice had turned all sad, so I just nodded. But the next day, I woke up to a text on Instagram. I recognized the username instantly, because it was one I had stalked dozens of times before. It was Marcus's ex-girlfriend, Liliana. The text read, "Hey, I'm so sorry to bother you, but are you still dating Marcus O'Brien?" I responded, "Yes," instantly. I immediately saw her begin to type. She sent me a link to a sugar baby website. "He's doing the same thing to you as he did to me," she said. When I clicked on it, my heart dropped. The link was filled with photos of me, some from my Instagram, some from the ones Marcus took but never posted. All the men I had met who were flirting with me weren't a coincidence. They were previews of me that Marcus had set up, and he was waiting to give me away to the highest bidder. I stared at my phone screen, my hands shaking so badly I almost dropped it. The sugar baby website showed my face plastered across the homepage with the caption, "Sweet college girl looking for generous arrangement." My stomach churned as I scrolled through the photos. There was one of me at the bar last week, another from dinner 2 nights ago, even some from our apartment that I didn't know he'd taken. Liliana's messages kept coming. "Check your email. He probably made one for you like he did for me." My fingers fumbled as I logged out of my account and tried variations of my name with different email providers. Nothing. Then I tried the nickname Marcus called me, Sweet P 2023, with his favorite numbers. Bingo. The inbox had over 50 messages. Men describing what they wanted to do with me, what they'd pay for my time, some even sending photos I immediately wished I could unsee. The account had been active for 6 weeks. 6 weeks of Marcus shopping me around like merchandise while I remained completely oblivious. I ran to the bathroom and emptied my stomach. When I finally stopped heaving, I sat on the cold tile floor and called Liliana. She answered on the first ring. "I'm so sorry," she said before I could speak. "I wanted to warn you sooner, but I was scared. He's not who you think he is. How long did he do this to you?" My voice came out as a whisper. 4 months. By the time I figured it out, he'd already introduced me to several clients. He made it seem like we needed the money for rent, then guilt-tripped me when I tried to leave. I heard Marcus's key in the lock. "He's home. I have to go. Screenshot everything. And whatever you do, don't confront him alone. He gets violent when cornered." The front door opened as I shoved my phone in my pocket. I splashed water on my face, trying to erase any evidence of my breakdown. Marcus knocked on the bathroom door. "Babe, you okay in there?" I forced myself to sound normal. "Yeah, just not feeling great. Think I had too much wine at lunch. Want me to make you some tea?" The same voice that used to comfort me now made my skin crawl. "That would be nice." I emerged from the bathroom to find him in the kitchen, humming while he filled the kettle. He looked so normal, so much like the man I'd fallen in love with. How had I missed this? "Actually," he said, turning to face me, "I'm glad you're home." Richard texted. "He wants to take us to dinner tomorrow night, some fancy steakhouse downtown." My blood ran cold. "Us?" "Well, mostly you. He really enjoyed meeting you at at the party. Thinks you'd be perfect for some modeling work his company needs. He studied my face carefully. It could be great money, babe. Maybe enough for that vacation we talked about. I nodded slowly, not trusting my voice. He smiled and pulled me into a hug. I stood rigid in his arms, fighting the urge to push him away. You're tense, he murmured, running his hands down my back. How about we skip the tea and I give you a massage instead? I think I just need to lie down. His grip tightened slightly before releasing me. Sure, but wear that red dress tomorrow, okay? The one I bought you last week. I spent the rest of the evening pretending to sleep while Marcus watched TV in the living room. My phone buzzed with more messages from Liliana, but I didn't dare check them. Instead, I lay there planning my next move. The following morning, Marcus left for work early. The second his car pulled away, I sprang into action. I screenshot every email, every message, every photo on the Sugar Baby site. Then I packed a bag with essentials and important documents, hiding it in the back of my closet. I called in sick to work and drove to Liliana's apartment. She answered the door looking exactly like her Instagram photos, but with dark circles under her eyes that the filters had hidden. Come in, she said, glancing nervously down the hallway. Did anyone follow you? I don't think so. Her apartment was sparse, boxes stacked in corners. I'm moving next week, she explained, starting fresh in another state. We sat at her kitchen table as she pulled out a folder thick with papers. I documented everything. The website, the men he introduced me to, the threats when I tried to leave. She slid a photo across the table. This was the worst part. The picture showed her with a black eye and split lip. My hand flew to my mouth. He did that when I confronted him about the website. Said I was being ungrateful after everything he'd done for me. She laughed bitterly. Everything he'd done to me is more accurate. We need to go to the police. She shook her head. I tried. Without concrete proof of trafficking, they said it was just a relationship dispute. Marcus is smart. He never put anything in writing, never explicitly said what he was doing. It's all implications and suggestions. But the website, he'll say you made it yourself, or that it's a fantasy thing between consenting adults. I've been down this road. My phone rang. Marcus. I let it go to voicemail. He's escalating with you faster than he did with me, Liliana observed. The dinner with Richard, that's the final test. If you go and play along, he'll take it as consent to move forward with his plan. What if I record him? Get him to admit what he's doing? Maybe, but be careful. When I started asking questions, that's when he got physical. My phone rang again. This time I answered. Where are you? Marcus's voice was tight with barely controlled anger. I told you I wasn't feeling well. I went to get some medicine. Your car's been gone for 2 hours. CVS is 5 minutes away. I stopped for coffee too. Thought fresh air might help. Silence stretched between us. Be home by 5. We need to get ready for dinner. Actually, I don't think I'm up for you're going. His tone left no room for argument. Richard specifically requested you. We can't disappoint him. He hung up before I could respond. Liliana grabbed my hand. You don't have to go back there. But I thought about all the other girls who might come after me, who might not be lucky enough to get a warning. Yes, I do, but not alone. I spent the rest of the day preparing. Liliana helped me set up a recording app on my phone that would upload directly to cloud storage. We created a safety plan, with check-in times and a code word if I needed help. I'll be parked outside the restaurant, she promised. If anything goes wrong, I'll call the police immediately. When I got home, Marcus was already there, the red dress laid out on the bed like a threat. Feeling better? He asked, though his eyes were cold. Much better. He watched me get ready, commenting on my makeup, suggesting I show more cleavage. I complied with everything, playing the part of the obedient girlfriend while my phone recorded from my purse. The restaurant was exactly the kind of place I'd expected. Dim lighting, leather booths, men in expensive suits drinking whiskey. Richard stood when we arrived, his eyes immediately going to my chest. Stunning as always, he said, kissing my cheek and letting his lips linger too long. Marcus beamed like he'd just won a prize. I told you she cleans up nice. They'd already ordered wine. Richard kept refilling my glass while regaling us with stories about his business travels. His hand found my knee under the table. I didn't move it, even as it crept higher. Marcus tells me you're interested in modeling, Richard said, his thumb drawing circles on my thigh. I glanced at Marcus, who nodded encouragingly. I've never really thought about it. You should. I know several photographers who would love to work with you. Very lucrative opportunities for the right girl. What kind of modeling? I asked innocently. Richard and Marcus exchanged a look. Various types. Depends on your comfort level. Some girls just do regular shoots. Others are more adventurous. Adventurous how? Marcus kicked me under the table, but Richard seemed pleased by my interest. Private shoots, exclusive clients. The pay is exceptional for those willing to be flexible. How exceptional? 5 figures for a weekend, more for extended arrangements. I forced myself to look intrigued rather than disgusted. That's a lot of money. You're a lot of woman, Richard replied, squeezing my thigh. The conversation continued in this vein through dinner. Richard growing bolder with his touches, Marcus practically glowing with pride. They discussed me like I wasn't there, negotiating terms and availability. I have a client in town next week, Richard said. Japanese businessman. He has specific tastes. I think you'd be perfect. What kind of tastes? I asked. Richard leaned in close enough that I could smell his cologne mixed with whiskey. He likes college girls. Sweet, innocent types who need guidance. The booking would be for 3 nights. 20,000. Marcus nearly choked on his wine. 20,000? For the right girl, my clients pay premium prices. Richard's hand was now high enough on my thigh that another inch would be indecent. Of course I take a finder's fee, and Marcus would get his referral bonus. There it was. The admission I needed. How much does Marcus get? I asked sweetly. Typically 10%, but since you're his girlfriend, I'd make it 15. I did the math out loud. So $3,000 for Marcus just for introducing me? Marcus shifted uncomfortably. It's not like that, babe. It's just networking. Making connections. Connections, I repeated. Is that what you called it with Liliana too? The color drained from his face. What? Your ex-girlfriend? Did she make good connections? Richard pulled his hand back, looking between us with confusion. Marcus's jaw clenched. I don't know what she told you, but she told me everything. I pulled out my phone, showing them the screenshots, the website, the emails, the men you sold her to. Sold is a strong word, Richard said carefully. We simply facilitate introductions between consenting adults. I'm not consenting to anything. I stood up, my voice carrying across the restaurant, and neither did she. Marcus grabbed my wrist. Sit down, you're making a scene. Good. I yanked free. Maybe everyone here should know what kind of business you're running. Several diners were now watching us. A manager started heading our way. You stupid beach, Marcus hissed. You have no idea what you're doing. I know exactly what I'm doing. I held up my phone, and I have it all recorded. Every word about finder's fees and referral bonuses and selling women to businessmen. Richard's face went pale. That's illegal. You can't record without consent. Actually, in this state, only one party needs to consent, and I consent to recording men trying to traffic me. The manager reached our table. Is there a problem here? Yes, I said loudly. These men are trying to prostitute me to their clients. The restaurant went silent. Richard threw cash on the table and rushed out. Marcus stood slowly, his face twisted with rage. We're leaving, he said. I'm not going anywhere with you. He leaned in close. Get in the car, or I'll make you regret it. Like you made Liliana regret it? With a black eye and split lip, the manager stepped between us. Sir, I think you should leave. The lady can stay as long as she needs. Marcus looked ready to argue, but two servers had joined the manager. He backed away, pointing at me. This isn't over. I waited until he left before collapsing back into the booth. My hands shook as I texted Liliana that I was safe. She replied immediately, saying she'd seen Marcus storm out and peel away in his car. The manager sat across from me. Do you need us to call the police? I thought about what Liliana said. Without concrete proof, they'd dismiss it. But now I had Richard on recording discussing prices and finder's fees. Yes, I want to file a report. While waiting for the police, I called a locksmith to meet me at my apartment. Then I texted my boss, explaining I'd need a few days off to handle a domestic situation. My phone buzzed constantly with calls and texts from Marcus, ranging from threats to apologies to sewer slide threats. The police took my statement and listened to the recording. They agreed it was concerning, but said they'd need more evidence to press charges. I gave them Liliana's contact information and the screenshots from the website. We'll look into it, the officer said. In the meantime, you might want to consider a restraining order. Liliana met me at my apartment. The locksmith had already changed the locks, and we went through my things, checking for hidden cameras or tracking devices. We found 2 cameras, one in the bedroom and another in the bathroom. He was recording you, Liliana said grimly, probably making content for the website. I felt sick all over again. How many men had watched me in my most private moments? We spent the night packing my essentials. I'd stay with my sister until I figured out next steps. As we worked, Liliana told me more about her experience. After I left, I found out there were others. Girls before me, girls after. Marcus has been doing this for years. We need to find them, warn them. She nodded. I've been trying. Some don't want to relive it. Others are too scared. But maybe with your recording, we can finally stop him. My phone rang. An unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. You've made a terrible mistake. It was Richard. You have no idea who you're messing with. Is that a threat? It's a promise. That recording won't hold up in court. And when this blows over, you'll wish you'd just played along. I'll take my chances. Your boyfriend owes me money. A lot of money. If you don't fulfill the contracts he's already signed, I'll collect from him in other ways. The line went dead. Marcus showed up at 3 in the morning, pounding on the door and screaming my name. Liliana called 911 while I recorded his threats through the door. I know you're in there. This is my apartment too. Let me in. Go away, Marcus. I've called the police. I'll unalive myself. Is that what you want? I'll do it right here. I didn't respond. Liliana held my hand as we waited for the sirens. Marcus was still ranting when the police arrived, giving them plenty to arrest him for. I watched from the window as they put him in handcuffs. He looked up and saw me, his face contorting with rage. This isn't over, he screamed. You're mine! You'll always be mine! But he was wrong. I wasn't his anymore. I wasn't anyone's. The next morning, I met with a lawyer Liliana recommended. She specialized in cases like ours and agreed to take me on pro bono. With the recording and his arrest, we have a strong foundation, she said. But we need more. Other victims, financial records, anything that shows a pattern. I gave her access to the email account and the screenshots. She whistled low. This is extensive. He's been running this for years. Can we stop him? We're going to try, but I need you to be prepared. Men like Marcus don't give up easily. This could get uglier before it gets better. She was right. Over the next week, Marcus's harassment escalated despite the restraining order. He created fake social media accounts to message me. He showed up at my work until security banned him. He sent flowers with cards saying, I'm sorry, and please come home, and you're making a mistake. Then the other women started coming forward. Liliana had been quietly reaching out, and my story gave them courage. Within 2 weeks, we had 7 women willing to testify about their experiences with Marcus and Richard's network. We met at the lawyer's office, sharing our stories and comparing notes. The patterns were chilling. Always the same progression. Excessive gifts, suggestive photo shoots, introductions to wealthy men, then threats when we tried to leave. He told me no one would believe a stripper, one woman said. He said I owed him for all the dinners and presents, another added. He threatened to send the photos to my family, a third whispered. But together, we were stronger than our fear. The lawyer, Victoria, spread out documents across her conference table as we all leaned in. We need to establish a clear timeline and pattern of behavior. Each of your stories strengthens our case. I noticed one woman, Catherine, hadn't spoken yet. She sat in the corner, arms wrapped around herself. When our eyes met, she quickly looked away. Catherine was with Marcus before me, Liliana explained quietly. 3 years ago. Victoria's expression darkened. That extends our timeline significantly. Catherine, would you be willing to share? Catherine's voice came out barely above a whisper. He seemed perfect at first. Protective, loving. Then he started taking me to business dinners with his colleagues. Said it was good for his career if I charmed them. The room fell silent as she continued. One night, he left me alone with his supervisor for hours. When he got aggressive, I fought back. Marcus was furious. Not at him, at me. Said I'd embarrassed him and cost him a promotion. My stomach churned. The pattern was becoming clearer. Over the next few hours, we pieced together Marcus's operation. He'd target women who were financially vulnerable or emotionally isolated. The gifts and attention would create a sense of obligation. Then came the photos, the networking events, and finally the threats when we tried to leave. Richard wasn't the first, Victoria noted, reviewing our testimonies. There's mention of at least 3 other men at the company who were involved. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. You think you're safe? Think again. I showed Victoria, who immediately documented it. Change your number. Today. As we wrapped up the meeting, Catherine pulled me aside. Be careful. After I left Marcus, weird things started happening. My tires slashed, dead flowers on my doorstep, calls to my employer making false accusations. Did you report it? She laughed bitterly. The police said without proof it was him, they couldn't do anything. That's why I never came forward before. That night, staying at my sister's house, I couldn't shake Catherine's warning. My sister Roby tried to distract me with movies and junk food, but my mind kept racing. You're doing the right thing, Roby assured me. These men need to be stopped. The next morning brought a new crisis. My boss called, sounding uncomfortable. I received some concerning emails about you. Photos that are inappropriate for the workplace. My blood ran cold. What kind of photos? They appear to be from social media, but edited to be more suggestive. The sender claims you're involved in escort services. The photos Marcus had taken, he was weaponizing them against me. It's my ex-boyfriend, I explained. He's trying to ruin my life because I left him. I can show you the police reports, the restraining order. I believe you, my boss interrupted. But HR wants to meet with you. This has become a company matter. I hung up feeling defeated. Even from jail, Marcus was finding ways to hurt me. Victoria called an emergency meeting. He's escalating because he's desperate. This is actually good for our case. It shows consciousness of guilt. How is ruining my career good? I snapped, then immediately apologized. I'm sorry. I'm just angry, scared, exhausted. I know. Victoria's expression softened, but every action he takes now is being documented. He's building our case for us. She was right. The HR meeting, while humiliating, resulted in my company supporting me. They traced the emails to an IP address linked to one of Marcus's friends and pressed charges for harassment. But Marcus wasn't done. That weekend, Liliana called in a panic. Someone broke into my storage unit. All my evidence boxes are gone. We met at a coffee shop where Liliana looked shaken. The security footage was mysteriously corrupted. The manager said it was a technical glitch. Marcus has help, I realized. He's not orchestrating this alone from jail. Victoria had warned us this might happen. Make copies of everything, she'd said. Multiple copies in multiple locations. Thank God we'd listened. While the physical documents were gone, we had digital backups stored in 3 different cloud services. The next blow came from an unexpected source. Richard's wife, who we'd hoped would be an ally, hired a publicist to manage the narrative. Suddenly, gossip blogs were running stories about gold-digging girlfriends trying to extort successful businessmen. They're trying to discredit us before we even get to court, Victoria explained. It's a common tactic. I wanted to scream. Every step forward felt like 2 steps back. Then Catherine made a discovery that changed everything. I kept journals, she told us, producing several notebooks. Dates, times, conversations, and look at this. She showed us an entry from 3 years ago. Marcus bragged about his business model one night when he was hammered. He said Richard promised him a partnership if he could deliver quality goods consistently. It was the first direct evidence linking the financial motive to the trafficking. We decided to be strategic. Instead of responding to the media attacks, we focused on gathering more evidence. Catherine remembered Marcus had a storage unit he'd forbidden her from visiting. Liliana recalled him mentioning a safety deposit box. We need someone still in his circle, Victoria mused. Someone who might flip. That someone turned out to be Marcus's roommate from college, Rob. He reached out after seeing the news stories, saying he had information that might help. We met in a public park, Victoria and I sitting across from the nervous-looking man. Marcus always had schemes, Rob began. In college, he'd set up dates between wealthy foreign students and girls who needed money, called it mutual benefit introduction services. Did you participate? Victoria asked carefully. No, but I watched it evolve. After graduation, when he got the corporate job, he said he'd found bigger fish. Started talking about Richard like he was some kind of mentor. Rob handed us a flash drive. Marcus asked me to hold on to this a few months ago. Said it was insurance. I think you should see what's on it. The flash drive contained spreadsheets, detailed records of women's names, dates, payment amounts, and client information. My name was there, along with Liliana's, Catherine's, and dozens of others. This is it, Victoria breathed. This is what we needed. But our victory was short-lived. That night, my sister's house was vandalized. Someone spray-painted terrible things across the garage door and left a note. Drop the charges or next time it won't be paint. Roby was terrified. I can't have this at my home. I have kids. I understood. This was my fight, not hers. I moved to a hotel, one with good security and cameras everywhere. The other women were experiencing similar intimidation. One found her car vandalized. Another received death threats. Catherine's employer was bombarded with calls claiming she was a prostitute. They're trying to break us, Liliana said during our next meeting, make us too scared or exhausted to continue. Some women did drop out. I couldn't blame them. The cost of fighting back was getting higher every day. But then something unexpected happened. A journalist named McRobert reached out. He'd been investigating Richard's company for months, following rumors of inappropriate conduct. Your case is part of a bigger pattern, he explained. I've found similar operations in 3 other cities, all connected to executives at this company. McRobert had resources we didn't. Professional investigators, protected sources, ways to verify information. He offered to collaborate, sharing sharing his findings in exchange for exclusive interviews when we were ready. Victoria was cautious but agreed. Media attention could protect you. It's harder to intimidate victims when the public is watching. The investigation revealed the scope was bigger than we'd imagined. Richard wasn't just involved. He was running similar schemes across multiple states. The company's HR department had received complaints for years, but buried them to protect their executives. Then came the breakthrough we'd been waiting for. One of Richard's other victims, Victoria, had secretly recorded him for months. She'd hidden tiny devices in her purse, capturing conversations where he explicitly discussed prices, services, and his arrangement with multiple employees who brought him fresh talent. I knew no one would believe me without proof, Victoria explained, so I gathered it myself. The recordings were damning. Richard discussing how to manipulate women, laughing about their desperation, calculating his profits. In one recording, he even mentioned Marcus by name, calling him one of my best recruiters. We turned everything over to the authorities. With the spreadsheets, recordings, and multiple victim testimonies, they finally had enough to act. The arrests happened simultaneously. Richard was taken from his office in handcuffs. 3 other executives were arrested at their homes. Marcus, already in custody, was charged with additional crimes, but the company fought back hard. Their lawyers filed motions to suppress evidence, claimed the recordings were illegal, and continued their media campaign to discredit us. They have millions to spend on defense, Victoria warned. This is going to be a long fight. She was right. Depositions were grueling. Their lawyers tried to twist our words, shame us for our choices, and paint us as willing participants who changed our minds later. During my deposition, Richard's lawyer hammered me with invasive questions. You went to dinner willingly, correct? You wore the dress Mr. Marcus suggested? You didn't immediately leave when Mr. Richard touched your leg? Each question felt like another violation, but I held firm, remembering Victoria's coaching. I was manipulated and coerced by someone I trusted. My clothing choices don't constitute consent to be trafficked. The other women faced similar ordeals. Catherine broke down during her deposition. Liliana had a panic attack. Victoria's recordings were challenged on technical grounds, but we persisted. More women came forward as news spread. Former employees leaked internal documents showing the company knew about the scheme. McRobert published a series of articles that kept public pressure on. Then Marcus made a critical mistake. From jail, he tried to coordinate witness intimidation through coded letters to friends. One recipient, disgusted by what Marcus was asking, turned the letters over to police. The letters revealed Marcus's desperation and his network of accomplices. More arrests followed, including 2 current employees who'd been helping destroy evidence. As the criminal case built, we also pursued civil action. The company, facing mounting evidence and public backlash, began settlement negotiations. They want this to go away, Victoria explained. The board is panicking about shareholder lawsuits and regulatory investigations. But we weren't interested in just money. We demanded systematic changes, mandatory training, independent oversight, and a fund for victim support services. The negotiations were intense. Some women wanted to accept the first offer and move on. Others wanted to fight for more. We had heated debates about what justice really meant. Money won't undo what happened, Catherine argued, but it could help other women escape similar situations. In the end, we found common ground. The settlement included both financial compensation and structural reforms. The company agreed to implement our demanded changes and fund a nonprofit dedicated to helping trafficking victims. But the criminal cases continued. Marcus, facing overwhelming evidence, was offered a plea deal. He refused, insisting he'd done nothing wrong, that we were all lying. His trial became a media spectacle. Each day brought new revelations about the extent of his operation. The prosecution presented our evidence methodically, building an ironclad case. When it was my turn to testify, I faced Marcus for the first time since that night at the restaurant. He stared at me with such hatred that I almost faltered. But then I saw the other women in the gallery, my sisters in survival, and found my strength. I told my story clearly and completely. Every manipulation, every threat, every moment of fear. The defense tried to shake me, but I held firm. Other women testified too. Each story added another layer to the pattern of abuse. By the time the prosecution rested, the jury had heard from 12 victims spanning 5 years. Marcus's defense was pathetic. He claimed we'd all consented, that he was just making introductions, that we were bitter about breakups. His testimony was full of contradictions and obvious lies. The verdict came back guilty on all counts: trafficking, extortion, cyberstalking, criminal harassment. As the judge read the charges, Marcus finally showed emotion, not remorse, but rage at being held accountable. Richard's trial followed a similar pattern. His wealth afforded better lawyers, but the evidence was too strong. The recordings Victoria made were particularly damning. His own words convicted him. One by one, the other men involved were brought to justice. Some took plea deals. Others fought and lost. The company faced federal investigation and massive lawsuits, but victory felt hollow sometimes. The trauma didn't disappear with guilty verdicts. We all struggled with trust, with relationships, with feeling safe in the world. That's when the real healing began. We used part of our settlement to create a support network for survivors. Catherine became a counselor. Liliana started a legal aid program. I focused on education and prevention. We spoke at colleges about the warning signs. We trained law enforcement on handling trafficking cases. We lobbied for better laws and resources. Marcus tried to appeal his conviction, claiming ineffective counsel and prosecutorial misconduct. Every appeal failed. He was sentenced to 15 years, eligible for parole in 10. Richard got 12 years. The other men received various sentences based on their involvement. The company paid millions in fines and settlements. But more importantly, our case set precedents. Other victims in similar situations found courage to come forward. Companies implemented stronger protections. The conversation around consent and coercion evolved. I still have hard days. Therapy helps, as does the support of my survivor sisters. others. We meet monthly, checking in on each other, celebrating victories, and processing setbacks. My career recovered. My employer stood by me throughout the ordeal, and I've since been promoted twice. I'm dating again, slowly and carefully, with someone who understands my journey. Liliana moved back to our state to run the legal aid program full-time. She's helped dozens of women escape similar situations. Her strength continues to inspire me. Catherine opened a counseling practice specializing in trauma recovery. She turns her pain into purpose every day, helping others heal. The other women each found their own paths forward. Some stayed in advocacy work. Others returned to private life. All of us were forever changed, but not broken. Recently, I received a letter from a young woman who'd seen my testimony online. She recognized the warning signs in her own relationship and got out before it was too late. She thanked me for speaking up. That letter reminded me why we fought so hard, not just for justice for ourselves, but to prevent others from suffering the same fate. The nonprofit we established has helped over 100 women in its first year. We provide emergency housing, legal aid, counseling, and job training. Every success story validates our struggle. Marcus will be eligible for parole in 7 years. The thought terrifies me sometimes, but I'm not the same scared girl who discovered that website. I'm stronger now, surrounded by an army of survivors who refuse to be silenced. Our lawyer Victoria still represents trafficking victims pro bono. She says our case changed her career trajectory. You showed me what courage looks like, she told us at our last meeting. McRobert won journalism awards for his investigation. He donated the prize money to our nonprofit. His reporting sparked similar investigations nationwide. The company never fully recovered. They filed for bankruptcy last year, their reputation destroyed. Some might call it excessive punishment. I call it accountability. Looking forward, I see hope. Laws are stronger. Resources are better. Awareness is growing. The path we carved through hell made it easier for others to find their way out. My phone has been quiet lately. No threats, no harassment, no reminders of that dark time except the ones I carry within. It's a peace I once thought impossible. But I know our fight isn't over. Somewhere, another woman is being manipulated by someone she trusts. Another predator is calculating profits from human misery. Another company is looking the other way. That's why we keep speaking up, why we keep fighting, why we refuse to let shame silence us. I confronted Marcus with the evidence that night, my hands trembling as I showed him the screenshots. His face crumpled, tears streaming down his cheeks as he collapsed onto our couch. Please, you don't understand, he sobbed. Richard has me trapped. I embezzled money from the company to pay for my mom's cancer treatment. $50,000. He found out, and now he's blackmailing me. My anger wavered. Your mom has cancer? Stage 3. The insurance wouldn't cover the experimental treatment. He grabbed my hands. I was desperate. I thought I could pay it back before anyone noticed, but Richard caught me. He said if I don't share you with his clients, he'll have me arrested. I pulled my hands away, my mind racing. Something felt off. Why didn't you tell me about your mom? I didn't want to burden you. She made me promise not to tell anyone. The next morning, while Marcus showered, I found his phone and scrolled to his mother's number. My heart pounded as I pressed call. Hello? His mother's cheerful voice answered. Hi, Mrs. O'Brien, it's me. I was just calling to check how you're feeling. Oh, I'm wonderful, dear. Just got back from my morning yoga class. Why do you ask? My blood turned to ice. No reason. Just wanted to say hi. After hanging up, I searched through Marcus's desk drawers. Hidden beneath old tax returns, I found cryptocurrency trading statements. $50,000 lost in failed investments over the past 6 months. The dates matched when he'd started acting strange. I photographed everything, my hands steady now despite my racing thoughts. The embezzlement story was a lie. The cancer was a lie. Everything was a lie. When Marcus emerged from the shower, I was sitting on the bed, calm. I've been thinking about what you said, I told him. About Richard blackmailing you. Hope flickered in his eyes. You believe me? Tell me more about this dinner party Richard wants me to attend. Marcus sat beside me, taking my hands again. It's this weekend. Just a small gathering at his house. A few potential clients. If you could just go this once, charm them a little, it would buy me time to figure something out. What exactly would I have to do? Nothing you're not comfortable with. Just be friendly, laugh at their jokes, maybe dance a little. Richard promised, that's all. I nodded slowly. Okay, I'll do it. For your mom. The relief on his face made me sick. He hugged me tight, whispering thank yous against my hair. While he held me, I activated the recording app on my phone. Tell me exactly what Richard expects, I said. I want to be prepared. Marcus pulled back, his expression serious. He has specific clients who pay well for introductions to beautiful women. This Japanese businessman, Mr. Tanaka, he's very wealthy. Richard thinks you're exactly his type. And what's his type? Young, educated, innocent looking. He'll probably offer to take you shopping, maybe suggest a weekend trip. You don't have to accept anything. Just be polite and interested. How much does Richard charge for these introductions? Marcus hesitated. It varies. For someone like you, probably $10,000 just for the initial meeting. And you get a cut? It's not like that. How much, Marcus? He looked away. 15%, but it's just to pay back what I owe. I forced myself to stay calm, to keep him talking. Over the next hour, he revealed everything. The network of men at his company who traded girlfriends like baseball cards. The website where they posted photos and set minimum bids. The bonus structure for delivering fresh talent. How many girls have you done this to? You're different, he insisted. I actually love you. The others were just what? Opportunities. That weekend, I arrived at Richard's house wearing a wire Victoria had procured. The mansion sprawled across manicured grounds, luxury cars lining the circular driveway. Marcus guided me inside with a possessive hand on my lower back. The party was smaller than I'd expected. Besides Richard and his wife, there were 3 other couples and 4 single men, all eyeing me with interest. Richard introduced me to each one, his hand lingering on my waist. Gentlemen, this is the young lady I mentioned, he announced. Isn't she exquisite? I played my part, smiling and making small talk while my skin crawled. The men circled like sharks, each trying to monopolize monopolize my attention. Marcus stayed close at first, then gradually drifted away as Richard had instructed. In the kitchen, I met 3 other young women refreshing their drinks. We exchanged knowing looks. First time? A redhead asked quietly. I nodded. Stick with us, a brunette whispered. Safety in numbers. How long have you been coming to these? I asked. 6 months, the blonde replied. Ever since my boyfriend started working at Richmond Industries. My pulse quickened. Your boyfriend works there too? They all nodded. The pattern was bigger than just Marcus and Richard. We huddled together, sharing information in hushed tones. Each woman had a similar story. Boyfriends who worked at the same company, who'd gradually pushed them into these situations. Photos appearing online without consent. Pressure to be friendly with executives and clients. We need to get out, I said. And go where? The redhead asked bitterly. They have photos, videos. They'll ruin us. Not if we work together. I gave them my number, whispering about the evidence I'd gathered. Their eyes lit up with hope. Richard appeared in the doorway. Ladies, you're being antisocial. Our guests are waiting. We scattered back to the party. Mr. Tanaka had arrived, a soft-spoken man in an expensive suit who immediately attached himself to my side. He asked about my studies, my interests, gradually steering the conversation toward travel. I have business in Tokyo next month, he said. You should join me. I could show you the city. That's very generous, I replied carefully. Richard speaks highly of you. He says you're looking for opportunities to expand your horizons. Did he mention what kind of opportunities? Tanaka smiled. The kind that could change your life. I'm prepared to be very generous with the right companion. I glanced at Marcus across the room. He was watching intently, nodding encouragement. How generous? I asked, hating myself for the words. 30,000 for a week, plus shopping, dining, entertainment, all expenses covered. That's a lot of money. You're worth it. His hand found my knee. Richard has excellent taste. I excused myself to the bathroom, where I found the brunette from earlier crying. I can't do this anymore, she sobbed. But Tyler says if I don't, he'll leak the photos to my family. What's your boyfriend's name? I asked gently. Tyler Morrison. He works in accounting. Another piece of the puzzle. I comforted her while texting Victoria updates. We were building a case against an entire network. Back at the party, Richard pulled me aside. Mr. Tanaka is very interested. He's willing to pay above market rate. Market rate? I repeated. Like I'm a commodity? Don't be dramatic. It's just business. Marcus understands that. How much does Marcus get if I agree? Richard smiled. Smart girl. He'd receive 4,500. Plus I'd forget about his little embezzlement issue. The 50,000 he stole? 60 actually. The interest adds up. I filed that information away. Marcus had lied about the amount too. The party continued until midnight. I collected phone numbers from the other women and contact information from several men who propositioned me. Each conversation was recorded, each offer documented. Marcus was jubilant on the drive home. Tanaka really liked you. Richard said he's ready to make an offer. I know. 30,000 for a week in Tokyo. Marcus nearly swerved off the road. 30,000? That's incredible. You seem surprised. Isn't this what you expected? I mean, I hoped, but that's more than... He caught himself. I just want you to be happy. How much do you owe Richard really? What? You told me 50,000. Richard said 60. His knuckles whitened on the steering wheel. Interest. Or you lied. Why would I lie? I'm trying to save my mother's life. I stayed quiet the rest of the drive, letting him stew in his deception. That night, I met the other women at a 24-hour diner. We compared notes, sharing evidence and contact information. The brunette, Sarah, had been documenting everything for months. The redhead, Jessica, had audio recordings. The blonde, Emma, had saved threatening texts. There are more of us, Sarah said. I know at least 6 other girls who've been through this. We spent hours strategizing. By dawn, we had a plan. Over the next week, I continued playing along with Marcus while secretly coordinating with the other women. We created encrypted group chats, shared lawyers' contacts, and built our evidence files. Marcus grew increasingly aggressive about the Tokyo trip. Tanaka's getting impatient. He might withdraw the offer. I'm still thinking about it. What's there to think about? It's $30,000 to prostitute myself. His face darkened. It's not like that. You'd just be his companion. Anything else is your choice. My choice? Really? Yes. I'm not forcing you to do anything. I pulled out my phone, showing him the recording app. Good to know. I've been recording these conversations. The color drained from his face. You. What? Every word, every admission, every threat. Marcus lunged for my phone, but I'd anticipated that. I dodged, running for the door. He caught my arm, yanking me back. You stupid girl, he snarled. You have no idea what you've done. I pepper sprayed him directly in the face. While he screamed and clutched his eyes, I grabbed my go bag and ran. My phone exploded with calls and texts as I drove to the hotel where the other women were waiting. Marcus, Richard, numbers I didn't recognize, all threatening, pleading, demanding. They know, I announced, bursting into the room. Sarah was on her laptop. Good. I just sent everything to McRobert at the Tribune. He's been investigating Richmond Industries for months. What about the police? Emma asked. Victoria's handling that, I said. She has enough evidence for a trafficking case. Jessica's phone rang. It's Tyler. He's outside my apartment, pounding on the door. Don't go back, Sarah said firmly. None of us go back. We spent the night fortifying our position. Victoria arrived at dawn with 2 other lawyers, reviewing our evidence and preparing statements. This is big, she said. Bigger than we thought. Richmond Industries has been running this scheme for years. You've uncovered a massive trafficking ring. McRobert published his first article that afternoon. Tech company executives accused of running girlfriend trafficking ring. Our evidence, carefully vetted and verified, laid out the entire operation. Marcus was arrested at work, let out in handcuffs as his co-workers watched. Richard was taken from a board meeting. Tyler and 6 other employees were arrested at their homes. But Richmond Industries fought back immediately. Their lawyers held a press conference claiming we were disgruntled ex-girlfriends seeking revenge. They painted us as gold diggers who'd engaged in consensual relationships, then cried foul when things ended. They're trying to destroy our credibility, Victoria warned. This is going to get ugly. She was right. The next days brought a barrage of attacks. Revenge adult film websites suddenly featured our photos. Our employers received anonymous complaints. Our families got calls claiming we were prostitutes. I moved hotels twice after Marcus's friends tracked me down. Sarah's car tires were slashed. Emma received death threats. Jessica's intimate photos were sent to her conservative parents. They're trying to break us, I said during our daily meeting. Then we don't break, Sarah replied firmly. We hired a cybersecurity expert to trace the attacks. Many came from Richmond Industries' IP addresses, giving us more evidence of systematic harassment. McRoberts' investigation deepened. He found former employees willing to talk, women from years past who'd been too scared to come forward. The network was vast, spanning multiple cities and companies. Then came the breakthrough. A Richmond Industries IT employee, disgusted by what he'd discovered, leaked internal emails, executives discussing inventory, spreadsheets tracking women like assets, Richard bragging about his stable to potential clients. The FBI got involved. What started as a local investigation exploded into a federal case. Agents interviewed us repeatedly, building an airtight prosecution. Marcus tried to cut a deal, offering to testify against Richard in exchange for leniency, but his lawyer made a fatal mistake, accidentally forwarding an email meant for Marcus to the prosecutor. In it, they discussed destroying evidence and intimidating witnesses. More arrests followed. The investigation revealed connections to similar operations in other cities. Richmond Industries' stock plummeted. Major clients pulled contracts, but the personal cost was staggering. I couldn't return to my apartment, too afraid of who might be waiting. My family received constant harassment. My career was on hold as I dealt with legal proceedings. The other women struggled too. Emma attempted sewer slide after her photos were spread across her university campus. Jessica's parents disowned her. Sarah lost her job when her employer decided she was too controversial. We held each other up, meeting daily for support. Victoria connected us with therapists specializing in trafficking trauma. We started a private support group, sharing resources and encouragement. The preliminary hearings were brutal. Defense lawyers attacked our credibility, our choices, our characters. They painted us as willing participants who'd changed our minds after the fact. You attended the party voluntarily? Marcus's lawyer pressed. Under false pretenses, I replied. You wore a revealing dress that Marcus selected and insisted I wear. You accepted expensive gifts that I later learned were purchased to create a sense of obligation. Every question felt like another violation, but we'd prepared for this. Victoria had coached us extensively, teaching us to stay calm and stick to facts. The evidence was overwhelming. The recordings, emails, financial records, and witness testimonies painted a clear picture of organized trafficking. Even Richmond Industries' own lawyers seemed to realize they were fighting a losing battle. Then Marcus made his biggest mistake. Desperate to save himself, he tried to contact me directly, violating his restraining order. He left a voicemail, oscillating between threats and pleas, admitting everything in his panic. Please, I know I hurt you, but I was just trying to make money. Richard promised if I brought him fresh girls, he'd make me a partner. You were supposed to be different, but then he saw your photo and offered so much money. I couldn't say no, just drop the charges and I'll disappear. If you don't, I'll make sure those videos go everywhere. Your family, your job, everyone will see what kind of girl you really are. I turned the voicemail over to prosecutors immediately. It became a key piece of evidence, showing consciousness of guilt and continued attempts at coercion. The trials began 8 months after that first confrontation. By then, our coalition had grown to include 23 women spanning 8 years of Richmond Industries operation. We sat together in the gallery, a united front against our abusers. Marcus took the stand, still trying to paint himself as a victim. He claimed Richard had manipulated him, that he'd been trying to protect me, that we'd misunderstood his intentions. But under cross-examination, his lies unraveled. The prosecutor played his voicemail, asked about the cryptocurrency losses, showed the spreadsheets where he'd tracked potential earnings from selling me to various clients. His mother even testified that she'd never had cancer, destroying his last sympathy play. The jury deliberated for less than 3 hours, guilty on all counts: trafficking, extortion, cyber harassment, criminal conspiracy. As the verdict was read, Marcus finally showed real emotion, not manipulation, but genuine fear as he realized his future. Richard's trial was even more damaging to Richmond Industries. Evidence showed he'd been running the scheme for a decade, with full knowledge of senior management. The company faced criminal charges as an organization. One by one, the other defendants fell. Some took plea deals, testifying against their co-conspirators. Others fought and lost. The sentences ranged from 5 to 25 years, with Richard receiving the maximum. The civil suits followed. Richmond Industries, facing bankruptcy from criminal fines and fleeing investors, settled quickly. The money wouldn't erase our trauma, but it provided resources for healing and rebuilding. We used part of the settlement to establish a foundation helping women escape trafficking situations. Sarah became the director, turning her pain into purpose. Emma focused on campus education, teaching college women to recognize predatory behavior. Jessica started a legal aid program for survivors. I returned to work eventually, my employer supportive throughout the ordeal. Some days were harder than others. Trust didn't come easily. Dating felt impossible. The trauma lingered in unexpected ways, but we'd won. We'd exposed a massive criminal network and prevented countless other women from suffering our fate. Richmond Industries dissolved, its executives imprisoned or disgraced. New legislation passed strengthening protections for trafficking victims. Marcus wrote me a letter from prison, 6 months into his sentence. Not an apology, but more manipulation, blaming me for ruining his life. I burned it unread, recognizing the tactics even from the first line. The other women and I still meet monthly. We celebrate victories and support each other through setbacks. Some have moved forward, building new lives. Others Others still struggle. All of us are forever changed. Last week, a young woman reached out through our foundation. Her boyfriend worked at a tech company and had started pushing her toward networking with his executives. She recognized the warning signs from our story. We helped her escape before it went further, connected her with resources, legal support, and counseling. Another predator exposed, another victim saved. That's the real victory. Not the verdicts or settlements, but the women who recognized the danger because we spoke up. The companies that implemented safeguards. The conversations that changed. My phone no longer fills with threats. Marcus will be in prison for 12 more years. Richard for longer. The network they built lies in ruins. I'm dating someone new now, carefully and slowly. He knows my story and respects my boundaries. Trust comes hard, but it comes. The nightmares have faded. The fear has lessened. The shame no longer controls me. We survived. We fought back. We won. And somewhere tonight, a woman is reading our story and recognizing her own situation. She's making an escape plan. She's reaching out for help. That's why we keep telling it. Not for sympathy or attention, but as a warning and a beacon. You're not alone. It's not your fault. You can escape. We did.